Have you ever wondered how some students seem to just barely study at all, but consistently score higher than you do? What if I told you that with just a few small, easy changes, you could be that student that other people are wondering about how you're scoring so high? In this video, we're going to unlock the secrets to studying like a genius. Whether it's for the ACT or just for your regular old history test, these 4 tips that I'm going to share with you are going to take your study game from average to top tier. And it's going to save you a bunch of extra time that you can now use playing Call of Duty, watching Stranger Things, or just looking at cat videos on TikTok. Now, first things first, we're throwing away your textbook. Well, not exactly, but we're throwing away what's called passive learning, and we're replacing it with something that's much more effective called active learning. Active learning means we're actively engaging with the material that we're trying to learn as we're learning it. Think questioning different topics, summarizing the material, and teaching the concepts to yourself or other people. This approach is all about making the brain actually work to understand and retain the information. And now this is the exact opposite of what we call passive learning, which is when you would just read over your textbook, kind of looking through the points, or reading over your notes and bullet point form that you took during class. For example, I have my students do a couple different forms of active learning when they're preparing for their ACT. If they take a practice math test, what I'll do is I'll give the students each one of the questions that they got wrong, and they'll have to go back and look through each one of those questions individually, trying to figure out exactly where they went wrong. Most of the time, they can figure out exactly what mistake they made and end up coming back to the right answer. But if they can't figure out exactly where they went wrong, then what I'll do is I'll give them the correct answer, and they'll reverse engineer the process to getting from the question to the correct answer. The process of actually teaching yourself how to solve problems, especially on something that you already got incorrect, forms much deeper connections in the brain, and it helps you retain the information through different scenarios and over a longer period of time. And this is backed up by real science as well. Multiple different studies have shown that students perform much better on tests after periods of active learning compared to students who only used passive forms of learning. So this active learning approach is absolutely critical, especially for the ACT, where the ACT asks questions in super weird and confusing ways, and they make sure that you have an actual understanding of the concepts that are being tested. Next up, we're also canceling the study sessions where you just lock yourself in a room and you study completely alone. Again, maybe we're not entirely getting rid of these things, but studying in a small group instead of studying on your own creates an interactive learning environment where you can discuss, debate, and explain concepts to one another. And this is actually another example of a way that you can transition yourself from being a passive learner to an active learner. If you're studying in a small group and you're constantly having to explain concepts back and forth to each other, those connections in your brain are going to be much deeper and longer lasting than if you're just studying on your own. Again, this is backed up by even more scientific research that shows that students who study in small groups perform much better on tests than students who study alone. Plus, I think we can all understand that it's much more fun to study with your friends than just lock yourself in a room. When I have a small group of students working on ACT prep together, I actually find that they're much more engaged and they learn the concepts a lot faster. For example, if one student just doesn't understand a grammar question on the ACT English section, I'll have another student explain their thought process for coming to the right grammar rule to use in that circumstance. This not only clarifies the grammar rule for the student who didn't understand it, but it also introduces a new perspective on the thought process from going from question to answer. And for the student who's doing the explaining, it actually solidifies those connections in their brain as they verbalize their process. So if you're still using your boring old strategy of studying in a room by yourself, you can actually speed up your learning and make your study process much more effective by just forming a study group. So now that we've tossed out a couple of your old techniques, we're going to introduce something new. And this one's one that you're probably going to enjoy. It's using study breaks to your advantage. This is one that you might have heard of before and kind of brushed to the side, but it's actually incredibly useful. And once again, it's backed by a lot of scientific data. Basically, our brains are only wired to learn and focus on something new for about 90 minutes at a time. And after that, we just start to lose focus and we stop retaining the information. So if you're planning on studying for longer periods of time, what you should do is chunk that up, break it up into short, focused bursts of effort, followed by a couple quick breaks. For example, with my ACT students, if we're planning on having an extended session, what we'll do is we'll break it up into like an hour or an hour and a half of really focused intense learning, and then we'll take maybe a 5-minute break. And I typically encourage something like jumping jacks or a quick walk outside during this time. And then we'll come right back into learning where the student's feeling much more rejuvenated. And again, this isn't just some voodoo thing that doesn't actually work. Multiple studies have shown that students retain much more information when learning in a structure like this. So don't feel bad about taking a study break every now and again. You should actually incorporate these things intentionally, and you'll get more done in less time. Finally, believe it or not, one of the most effective ways to improve your studying has nothing to do with your studying itself and everything to do with your lifestyle. I'm talking about moving your body and properly fueling your brain. Exercise isn't just great for your physical health. It has a massive impact on your mental capabilities too. Regular physical activity improves the blood flow that goes to your brain, it enhances your concentration, and it improves your memory retention. All things that are critical as you're trying to learn new information. And pretty much all of these exact same benefits have been shown for when you remove processed food and you replace it with a more well-rounded, balanced diet. And the cool thing about exercise is it doesn't even really matter which activity you choose. You can pick swimming, jogging, weightlifting, or even something like yoga. And all of these things will not only keep you physically fit, but they'll also give you an outlet for stress relief, and they will literally make you smarter. So if you're looking to save time on studying, you should probably look outside of just modifying your study plan itself. If you just incorporate a little bit of physical activity that you enjoy into your daily lifestyle and maybe improve your diet by a little bit, you can save a lot of time by just being a lot more efficient with the studying that you do get done. So now you have a number of different tweaks that you can make to your study routine that will save you time and let you learn more. Now you just have to figure out what to do with all the extra free time that you have. And if you're looking for a bonus tip to improve your ACT math score, check out the link in the description for a free download that's guaranteed to improve your approach to that tough ACT math section.